honored to introduce Dr. Paul Torrisi, President of the Skaneateles Lake Association. This outstanding association has been working for 50 years to protect and care for our lake. Thank you, Dr. Torrisi.
Thank you, Janet. And thank you, Mayor Walsh and Greg Lowe and the rest of the team from the City of Syracuse for taking their time to come out here today and enjoy this afternoon with us. It's been great. I have some prepared notes here, but most of this we pretty much have already covered actually at the DEC launch and at the washing station. But a little repetition doesn't hurt, I guess. And we want to thank you also, I don't think we've mentioned it yet, we want to thank you for initiating and promoting the $13,500 grant to the Skaneateles Lake Association from the Syracuse Common Council. That's certainly much appreciated, and it's going to be a huge shot in the arm to help with the matching grant from the SLA to expand the stewardship program this current season. So that's a tremendous plus. Thank you very much. So since receiving the filtration avoidance waiver back in 1994 from the New York State Health Department, the city has financially supported and worked closely with the Onondaga County Soil and Water Conservation District and helped form the the Skaneateles Lake Watershed Agricultural Program to encourage watershed farmers to use best management practices to keep manure, fertilizers, herbicides from entering the lake. The city has also engaged Onondaga County Cornell Cooperative Extension to educate other landowners in the watershed and on the lake to also practice best management practices. And many thanks to Rich Abbott, Mike Lynn, from the City of Syracuse, who are in the front lines day to day, answering questions, investigating properties, and they've done a tremendous job helping to keep this lake clean and pure. And many thanks to Joe Awald. I'm not sure he's here today, Commissioner of Water. Oh, there he is. Hi, Joe. For giving Rich and his staff the support that they need. Over 25 years has passed since that filtration avoidance waiver was awarded by the New York State Health Department to the City of Syracuse. And certainly the city has done a very responsible, fine job with all of these practices. Who would have known that, who would have even imagined that back then on the radar screen, two other issues would emerge that are affecting the situation that we see today. The climate changing and the influence of aquatic invasive species. Scientists are seeing evidence that aquatic invasive species such as zebra mussels and quagga mussels, as we have now in Skaneateles Lake, are playing more and more of a role in harmful algal blooms. And most recently, scientists are seeing that macrophytes, which are large weeds, Bob, correct me if I'm wrong in any of this, can also influence phosphorus production into the water column, which could also have some implications as far as harmful algal blooms. So it's so important that we continue our stewardship, trying to keep other aquatic invasives out of this lake and other lakes. Most of us have, in the Lake Association, have read Dan Egan's book, The Death and Life of the Great Lakes, and all the Finger Lakes are within the Great Lakes Basin, so we're all part of the same system. And we know there are over 180 aquatic invasives that have entered the system primarily through the St. Lawrence Seaway and St. Lawrence River. So the EPA has done a great job requiring ships coming from Europe and Asia to release their ballast water out in the ocean prior to entering the seaway. But we already have over 180 aquatic invasives in the basin now, knocking at the door, waiting to come in. The most concern, and we've discussed this already, is hydrilla, which is 2 lakes to our west on Cayuga Lake, and they've had a heck of a time keeping that at bay, using primarily chemicals to contain the growth of the hydrilla, especially off the shore of Aurora. So obviously prevention is the key, and that's where our stewardship program comes into play. This was established, our milfoil eradication program was started in 2007 after the SLA cooperated with the city to establish how this new invasive was starting to logarithmically grow in the early 2000s. And in 2007, the milfoil eradication control program was established. We just went out and looked at one of the boats run by John Menapace's company. But in 2012, because of the obvious need for prevention, the stewardship program was established by the Lake Association, and it's been under the very capable directorship of Dr. Buzz Roberts, who spent hours, weeks, days working on this program since its inception in 2012, recruiting and hiring a tremendous staff of stewards, now headed up by our head steward, Marty Minette, and also here's Roy Truswell, another great steward. The program has grown every year since then, and we welcome the city's help this year in expanding the program to accomplish even more. I think to take it to the next level, and we've already touched on this up at the boat washing station, this is a volunteer program on the part of the boaters, so we have to ask permission from the boaters to walk around their boat, inspect their boat. What we don't have is permission to crawl inside the boat and make sure that the New York State law of clean, drained, and dry is complied with by the boating population. So this is what we're hoping for. We're hoping to go to that next level where we can now have inspectors, maybe at 3 or 4 centralized inspection stations, which have perhaps decontamination equipment there, to be able to crawl, so that it's a mandated program. They can crawl inside the boat, inspect the bilge, inspect the other compartments, make sure the anchor lines are dry. And if they fail inspection, then those boats will be required to be decontaminated, most likely through a washing system like we just examined up here at the town park. The 12 of us toured the program at Lake George last June, including Neil Murphy, Bob Werner, myself, Bill Dean, Buzz Roberts, Fran Fish, and am I leaving anybody out? And we were really impressed with the program they set up at Lake George. And Janet Aaron has been there also to inspect the program. They started their program in 2014. They previously had a volunteer stewardship program, such as exists here now and in other Finger Lakes. And they have not documented any new aquatic invasives since the inception of their mandated program back in 2014. So that's pretty impressive. They even have more invasives there than we have, but none since they started this mandatory program. So what's required is the continued great leadership from the city of Syracuse, and in conjunction with the other municipalities who are several of whom are represented here today by Janet, Joan, is Marty Hubbard here? Mary Sennett, and Kathleen from the village of Skaneateles. I guess Chris Kosip couldn't make it today from Spafford, and neither could Kevin Fitch or Kevin Court from Symphonius and Scott. But we need to get together, everybody, form some sort of an intermunicipal council led by the city of Syracuse to basically govern this type of program. At Lake George, they have the Park Commission, which was set up years prior, that's really running their program. And we need something similar here, which I think is a very doable program. So that's our goal.